to another episode with your chapter crush sweetheart. This is Everblue Presents When You're Enough, a chapter crush sweetheart series. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. Charles R. Swindoll. I saw a shoebill store once. The impressive bird stands anywhere from 1.1 to 1.5 meters with a wingspan of up to 2.6 meters, a large beak that easily tears through the hide of a baby crocodile, and a 100-meter stare that would have the most dangerous villain in the world holding up their hands while slowly backing away. It's enough to make a grown man shudder, and I have no problem saying they are absolutely terrifying. Yet I actually shudder watching Bronwyn storm towards me and Ivette as if she's half crazed. Did we wake her? No, she's dressed to go running, her curls plaited in 2 braids that hang over her shoulders. And while she's slightly taller than the stork and she doesn't have the impressive wingspan, the power that she walks with seems to shrink the room. Her eyes are 2 burning pieces of coal, mouth set in a grim line that tilt up at the corners just enough to seem as if, no. Is she smiling? Oh, she has clearly blown a fuse. Ivette, who doesn't see Bronwyn approaching, puts her hand on her hip as she continues yelling, "Get off your self-righteous pedestal, Michel! Just because you're so perfect doesn't mean every..." Ignoring Ivette and my stinging cheek, I take a step towards Bronwyn. "I'm sorry," she pushes past me, putting herself squarely between me and Ivette. "We are not doing this today," she snaps. I blink twice, and not just because she's willingly speaking French. The woman is so soft-spoken. Even when she has been justifiably angry with me, she has never raised a voice. Yet now, her voice is strong and sharp. Ivette arrogantly glares down at her. "This is a private conversation that ceased to be private the moment you raised your voice and put your hands on him," Bronwyn growls, hiking a thumb in my direction. Wow, her French is even better than I suspected, which means she understood everything I said about Ivette that day. "Do you know who I am?" Ivette sneers as she scans Bronwyn from head to toe. Then turning to me, she says, "I think you'll need to replace your nanny." "Obviously, do you know who you are?" Bronwyn coldly cuts in. "You're the mother of the little girl in there who's still asleep. Yet you're here screaming abuses and assaulting Michel. Do you want her to see it?" My brows lift as I realize that Bronwyn is trying to protect me and Dorian. I can understand why she may feel some need to protect Dorian, but why me? "Look," Ivette fiercely scowls, her arms folded. "We still have things to discuss, like your future employment, so you can leave." "Don't be insulting," I scowl, stepping from behind Bronwyn so that I can get a look at her face. I'm sorry, Bronwyn. Sometimes Ivette becomes a little passionate and things get out of..." Her sharp eyes scan me before reproachfully returning to Ivette. "Are you saying this woman has hit you before, Michel?" Bronwyn's voice is low again, and my stomach drops as I begin sincerely regretting that I told her my family name. Also indicating that Ivette has lashed out at me before was definitely the wrong thing to say to diffuse the situation. "This woman?" Yvette's voice rises again, but is largely ignored as Bronwyn looks back at me. I rest a hand on Bronwyn's shoulder, and that's when I realize how tightly coiled she is. "I'm all right, Winnie. I'll take care of this." Bronwyn's nostrils flare at my non-answer, but she nods. "All right, Michel, I'm going for my run." I put my headphones on Dorian's ears, just in case. "Who do you think you are?" Yvette shouts, her face red in anger, and if I were to guess, embarrassment. "I just said Dorian is asleep." Bronwyn sharply growls, her head whipping towards Yvette. "If you can't keep your voice down, you'll have to leave and return when you're calmer." As Yvette's mouth opens and closes, I consider Bronwyn. I can't believe she's willing to let Yvette through the front door again. Yet, from what I know of her, she also doesn't want to do anything that would cause trouble with our custody arrangements. It's thoughtful, but also sets a boundary with consequences. And while I completely agree with it, I know from experience, telling Yvette to be calm is like trying to boil the ocean. Yvette's hand flies to her throat as if she's insulted. Are you going to let her speak to me this way? She plaintively asks, her wide green eyes pleading with me to do something. Ugh. How many times did I fall for her act? How many times did my family try to talk to me about getting her help when she would fall into one of her moods? I would never lay a violent hand on her. I could never do such a thing. I would rather allow her to hit me so that she wouldn't be injured if I tried to block her. And when Ivette would begin throwing things, I learned to duck. Yet, if my mother expressed concern over her volatile behavior, Ivette would blame the victim, and I had to stop anyone from saying anything to correct her. My head is beginning to throb. I didn't expect to be ambushed by my ex-wife on my way in from my run. Yet, when she stepped from the passenger side of a silver Maybach and said there was something she needed to say, I invited her upstairs to talk. I couldn't possibly regret it more. I'm talking to you, Michel. Yvette's voice rises. It doesn't reach prior levels, but when she reaches out to push me, Bronwyn's arm comes up between us, knocking Yvette's hand away. I warned you, didn't I? Bronwyn says quietly. Yvette's eyes go from angry to wide with fear as she stares into Bronwyn's face, and I just know things are about to go sideways. Bronwyn, I say calmly. When her shoulders relax minutely, I take a deep breath. During my year serving with the police, there were a few hostage recovery situations that unexpectedly derailed and required improvisation. At those times, second-guessing your instincts could mean the life of the hostage, a team member, or your own. Thankfully, my gut has never been wrong. So when something tells me to massage the back of her head, like I've seen her do when she's trying to calm herself, I don't question it. I begin gently, hoping she doesn't spin around and lash out at me. I'm not focusing on how soft her hair feels as I gently work my fingers into her braids near the base of her skull and give her scalp a squeeze. Nor do I concentrate on the lavender and berry scent that's stirred up in the process. Instead, I'm taken by the way she melts back into the pressure with a little sigh. And in the space of a few seconds, short circuits my brain. I gently swing her head in my direction to look into dark eyes that have completely relaxed. It's as if she has become a cat, and I chuckle at the thought that she might begin purring. Better? I ask, voice deeper than usual. Hmm? Oh, yeah. Bronwyn stutters as she straightens to slip out of my grasp. I release her with a frown, wondering why my head is beginning to hurt again. Does someone want to tell me what's going on here? Yvette's voice sharply cuts in. Oh, right. Yvette, I say, Winnie is right. I'll get Dorian enrolled and we can discuss everything else when I bring her home tomorrow. Yvette folds her arms with a fierce shake of her head. I am not going anywhere until you tell me who this woman is and what right she has to dictate what goes on between us. Us? There is no us, Yvette. You made certain of that. In a look that can only be described as petulant, she juts her chin out as she eyes me and Bronwyn. Well, I still have a right to know who it is you've hired to be around my child, especially if you're going to keep putting up with this behavior. I sigh, trying to figure out how to explain the concept of a work life since there's no way Yvette will believe we're only friends. I haven't had female friends in years, and a grown man rooming with a woman? Not only would I never do it under normal circumstances, it's unheard of in the little village I'm from. When I look at Bronwyn to get an idea of what to say, she wrinkles her nose and snorts, making me smile. She's right. This is unbelievable. The soft thump, thump, thump as Yvette's foot taps against the rug indicates her impatience as she says, Well? Suddenly, Bronwyn's words are crashing into mine as we speak at the same time. I don't work here, lady. She's my woman. Two rounded sets of eyes stare back at me, likely mirroring my own as I try to figure out what I meant. I planned to explain the concept of a work life, but the wires were crossed as Bronwyn began speaking. You're what? Yvette shrieks. I don't know why French insists on using the same word for woman and wife, yet here we are. Bronwyn freezes beside me as I shake my head to clarify. We work at the same firm and we live here together. I begin with a frown. Yvette glares at me, her free hand balling into a fist at her side. Do you think I'll leave my daughter here when you're living in sin with this woman? My brow rises of its own accord. Really, Yvette? When we divorced because you refused to leave your fifth paramour's house in Montenegro? Or was he the sixth? Not to mention whatever you have going on right now with Jeff. She flushes a splotchy shade of red, and I wouldn't be surprised if she blows up, but she glances down at Bronwyn and immediately shrinks back a bit. Jeff isn't your business. Besides, I don't live with him. Believe me, the judge is going to hear about this. I blanch at the threat. I'm not sure how the judge would take the accusation, but I'm completely resolved to get full custody myself. I don't need Yvette's accusations clouding the judge's opinion. Besides that, I also don't need Yvette disappearing who knows where with my daughter. She couldn't or wouldn't give me an address of where I can contact her, so I doubt it's another job, as she says. Bronwyn takes a step to the side as if she's going to see herself out of the conversation, but I quickly take her hand in mine and tug her closer. When she looks up at me, wild-eyed, I smile as I eye her. Hopefully she understands this is an emergency and has no other meaning behind it. Turning back to Yvette, a stiff smile spreads across my face as I say, well, we're married. Why wouldn't we live together? I can feel Bronwyn shrink away as she begins shaking her head. I'm sorry. Oh, so she's suddenly your wife? Yvette scoffs, cutting Bronwyn off. What was it? Love at first sight? Bronwyn snorts and I frown as I tug her closer to my side. Winnie, this is Yvette. As you know, Yvette, this is my wife, Winnie. Two sets of eyes cut to mine, but Bronwyn speaks first, slipping into English. Are you seriously calling me Winnie right now? She's American? Yvette screeches. Yes, Bronwyn snaps, returning to French. She's American, and she's going for her, now abbreviated, run. Enjoy your run, my love, I say, although the words feel like sawdust on my tongue. Annoyance shines out of her dark eyes as they flash to mine, but she grunts, I'll be back soon. With that, she walks out of the room. You've done it now, Yvette spits out. I'm suing for sole custody. You'll never see Dorian again. I take a deep breath. Dorian has my name on her birth certificate. I was there every moment, even when you couldn't look at her for weeks on end after giving birth. I didn't blame you. I just stepped in. So, on what grounds will you take her from me, Yvette? She smirks, her eyes fairly dancing as she walks towards the dining room, glancing inside. Jeff is wealthy enough to hire someone to dig up whatever you're trying to hide here. When I find out, I'm going straight to the judge. She whirls towards me. Unless... My brows snap down as I eye her suspiciously. Unless what? Yvette's smile, so much like Dorian's, flashes at me as she walks closer, resting a hand on my arm. Take her for the next 9 months. I'll write a letter saying that you're responsible for her while I'm traveling for work. Then I'll collect her from you when I return. The smell of cigarettes still clings to her. Another reminder of how she blew off her child's interest last night for the sake of a party. Shaking her hand off me, I take a step back. We both know you aren't going for work, Ivette. The smile drops from her face as she folds her arms. Yes, but the judge doesn't know that, and you aren't going to tell him. Otherwise, I'll just take her with me for 9 months. Somehow, I don't think Jeff will appreciate having her underfoot for 9 months. When she begins to fidget with her hair, confirming my suspicions, I sigh, crossing my arms. You know I'll do anything for Dorian, but I think you should stay here with her. We have joint custody, and she's your responsibility as much as she is mine. She needs her mother here, with her. Not don't! Yvette spits out, her face red as she trembles, trying to control herself. Just don't. I've already made my decision, and if I have to put her in her own hotel room myself, you're not going to have my daughter hotel hopping with you all over creation. I grit out. A slim blonde brow jumps as she coolly considers me. Then do us both a favor and say you'll do it, because I must do this, Michel. Her face softens as I consider her, and when her green eyes turn bleeding, I sigh. I've tried. This woman refuses to be a mother. If my wife agrees, I'll do it, I say bitterly. Yvette's smile could power a small city, but I hold up a hand to stop her, wrapping her arms around me. Winnie would not appreciate that. The smile quickly drops from her face, but I don't give her a chance to respond. When are you leaving for your trip? A cloud of something passes over her face, and for a moment I think she's going to change her mind. Instead, she straightens her shoulders. Saturday morning. Perhaps you can come by tomorrow evening to pick up the rest of her things? Running her hand through my hair. I shrug. I'll let you know by this evening. Yvette smirks. I say you're insisting on keeping up the charade. If I get one hint this is fake, Michel, so help me. You have nothing to worry about there, I say firmly, looking her in the eye. She tilts her head as she considers me. Maybe not. After all, you always were a fool when you were in love. I never thought I'd see the day you would move on with someone else. Good for you. I'm stunned as she leans in to give me 2 air kisses, smirking as she steps back to look up at me in amusement. I let myself out. When she turns to walk away, I look up. Don't you at least want to say goodbye to Dorian? Yvette freezes, but she doesn't turn around. It will only be out there for her. You can just tell her I went on a trip. Out there for her or for you? I ask quietly. Her shoulders droop. I never said it was easy, Michel. With that, she steps into the foyer and rounds the corner. Darling, take my advice, she suddenly says. I begin crossing the living room before I realize she isn't talking to me. Although he has put you up in a nice place here, find another man while you can, or you'll find yourself trapped in a little house on the side of a mountain with a house full of children and no life to speak of. Her words prevent me from stepping into the foyer, where they'll no doubt see the anger and shame that floods me. Even after years of humiliation and trying to make it work, I'm still the one who was in the wrong. Yes, I was the fool for thinking that we wanted the same things in life, but I always communicated what I thought and tried to understand her as well. To hear her boil down what I can now admit was my idealized dream of what love means into something that sounds so crude and domineering makes me sick to my stomach. I bend over to catch my breath as Bronwyn scoffs. I'm sorry, you have the wrong idea, Yvette, because that was always my dream. Besides, Michel has already promised to let me crochet all of our children's clothing. What? The nausea dissipates as I begin to silently chuckle. I'm not sure I'll ever figure Bronwyn out. Are you pregnant? Yvette exclaims, sounding horrified. Would you send us a gift if we were? Bronwyn retorts, voice like honey. After all, little Bronchel or Mewin would be Dorian's younger sibling. Seconds later, I hear the apartment door slam shut, and I'm left reeling at what just happened. When Bronwyn comes around the corner, I can only straighten up and voice what I'm thinking. You're crazy, she smiles, one of her real, full smiles that releases her dimples. She puts a finger to her lips. Shh. Morning wind doesn't like being called names before breakfast. When we start laughing, it feels good after a morning like this. Well, that was crazy. Bronwyn finally gasps when we catch our breath. It certainly was. I'm sorry I brought you into this, I promise. Yvette wasn't always so. Bronwyn waits, brow arched, her eyes filling in the blank. Difficult, I supply after a moment. She had a hard pregnancy and then postpartum depression nearly took her life. Not sure she ever recovered mentally. Bronwyn tilts her head as she studies me. And you think that's the reason why she's this way? I raise a brow. No, I don't think it's that simple. She nods and turns towards the foyer. I think I'll take off now. Nodding, I follow behind her. All right. I know there isn't much time before you have to get ready to leave your work. Would it be possible to meet you for lunch? There's something I need to discuss with you. Sorry, I have a meeting. Bronwyn sits on the bench lacing up a sneaker. But I'll see you after work. I take a deep breath. Well, you see, it's something that I need an answer on by a certain time, because depending on what you say, I'll need to begin getting things processed. Bronwyn pauses, the other pink, white, and yellow running shoe dangling from her fingertips. I'm sorry, Michelle. I don't believe in fake dating or fake marriage tropes. What? I shake my head as I try to figure out what she's saying. Bronwyn shoves her foot into the other shoe as she looks up at me. It means I won't pretend to be married to you. I've got a life. I resist the urge to snort. I'm not going to ask you to fake date or fake marry me. Bronwyn nods as she deftly ties her laces. Good. I know you have a lot going on with Yvette, but trust me, faking a relationship won't work. I have too much fiction in my brain to think otherwise. I frown, unsure what she means by fiction. Beginning Saturday, Yvette is going to be gone for the next 6 to 9 months. She's asked if I can take Dorian for the duration. Is that all right with you? Bronwyn stands, crossing to the door. She says, "Sure, you know that isn't a problem, Michel. I love Dorian, but I do suggest you get a nanny at least a few hours a day during the week if you hope to get any work done in your current work configuration." I raise a brow. That's a good point. Even with Dorian in school, I'm not sure I'll be able to make it home from work in time to pick her up. Not unless I work in the office in the morning and work from home the rest of the day. I'll definitely consider that. I nod. But that isn't all. Bronwyn pauses with her hand on the door handle, looking at me expectantly. Since I signed the work agreement, I'm unable to return home to Annecy with Dorian, even after I filed to be her primary caregiver and change this to her temporary permanent address. Okay. Bronwyn frowns, her hand still on the door handle. I run a hand through my hair. Yet, I need to get her enrolled in school, and then I'm planning to file for sole custody. Bronwyn nods. It sounds like a good idea. Let me know if I can help. She turns the knob. You can, I exclaim, only relaxing as she releases the handle. Ivette is going to try to make it impossible for me to succeed and will likely fight to get sole custody herself. She's already said she's going to use the fact that we live together as a reason that my home wouldn't be suitable for Dorian's care. Bronwyn scowls, and I grimace as I soldier on, unsure how she'll take the next part. In addition, Ivette has brought to my attention the fact that I will only be able to enroll Dorian in school with the judge's order and 2 pieces of evidence that I'm a resident here. So, if I've got this straight, she frowns. You can only enroll Dorian in school if you have your lease and some other documentation saying that you're a resident, which I assume you don't have. I nod sharply, already hating where this is going, yet whether the solution is there. You also need to refute Yvette's claims that your home isn't a suitable place. Morally? I nod again, because as ludicrous as it sounds, especially if it came from Yvette, it's true. It's likely the reason why she lives in a townhouse and not her boyfriend's fancy condo wherever he lives. And you also need to file to gain temporary custody of Dorian now and sole custody when that comes through. Yes, I finally say as her dark eyes narrow on me. It sounds like you have a lot on your plate. I wish you Godspeed. Wait, I exclaim as she turns the handle and opens the door. She looks towards the hallway, almost regretfully before letting the door close, locking it and going to sit on the bench. She's grumbling to herself in what sounds like Mandarin as she begins taking off her running shoes. I'm sorry I caused you to miss your run, Bronwyn. She picks up her shoes and slides her feet into her slippers. Fine, I'll do it. But you'll owe me big. I'm not making music for dinner anymore. I'll give you money for my part of the food budget and you feed me for the next year. Got it? I'm sorry, I frown. What are we talking about? Don't you want me to be your fake wife? She asks. I shake my head. I would neither lie to the court nor ask you to do so. Not to mention how easy it would be to verify. Her face scrunches in a way that would be adorable if my heart weren't beating in my throat. No, Bronwyn, I sigh as I continue. I'm asking you to marry me. Time stands still as she looks at me, her face frozen in shock. Slowly, her lashes flutter against her cheeks as she blinks. Would you mind repeating that? She asks, standing up from the bench on slightly wobbly legs. I frown. I know it's unexpected, and I know it isn't. No, I get all of that. Repeat what you said before. Clearing my dry throat, I look into her eyes, feeling a bit hopeful. Bronwyn, will you marry me? As she looks at me as if I've lost my mind, which I likely have, the silence stretches so long that I clear my throat, unable to stand it any longer. You don't have to respond right away. Papa? Dorian calls. I point towards the music room, slowly backing away. I'll come right back, I murmur. She gestures in that direction with a limp hand as I flee into my daughter's quarters. It was a stupid idea. I don't know what came over me. I'll have to apologize when I go back out. Yet all thoughts of the present predicament flee when I see Dorian sitting up in the middle of the sofa bed, the headphones sideways on her head. I can't lose her. Yet when I step into the foyer with Dorian in tow, ready to try again, Bronwyn is nowhere to be found.